Chris, there are some leading law firms and leading individual lawyers who are using social media to good effect, but they seem to be in the minority. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think you're right. I think there has been a general reluctance over the last couple of years for law firms, particularly, let's say, well-known larger law firms, to engage with social media platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn. And I think the reason is, apart from a natural cautiousness and conservatism, a fear, I think, that there's going to be some terrible, dreadful breach of client confidentiality or firm's confidentiality, which is going to compromise them beyond measure. And I think that kind of fear and the extent to which using social media platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn could compromise you under the code of conduct. And I think that's a misplaced reticence and reluctance.
Well, as well as firms being slightly off the pace, as it were,
Yeah.
is there a perception issue, do you think, about social media?
I think there's a perception that it in some way might demean the brand of the firm, and I think firms do invest heavily in their brands, and they're very sensitive about developing their brands. And if you, for instance, have a number of people from your firm tweeting individually with individual Twitter accounts or LinkedIn accounts, I think there's a perception that that may in some way compromise the firm's brand. I don't share that view. I think that actually it's for individual lawyers to use these social media platforms to develop their own practices within the firms. And I think that actually augments the firm's brand, provided they're being used within the context of a sensible social media policy.
Now, any firm who is thinking of going down the social media route, sooner rather than later, is going to ask the question, what's in it for me? So
Yes.
what is in it for them?
Much wider publicity. I mean, we've been using Twitter now for the last 2 years, and we now have 12,000 followers, and that's just my account. We have a number of other lawyers within our firm that are tweeting away merrily and using LinkedIn, and they are engaging with a huge audience. So the use of these social media platforms assists the marketing of the firm in many different respects. It's not just about getting clients, although obviously we get clients through the use of social media. But for instance, my firm launched an iPhone application recently to help people do trademark searches from their iPhones. And we promoted that on Twitter. And it was picked up by the Times 2 weeks running. The City Law pages of the Times featured that application, and that's just fantastic. And that's because we're using social media. So the dividends are not just about getting clients. Another benefit is you come across with great ease suppliers of services for your firm that you might otherwise not come across. I'm talking about web developers, management marketing coaches and people like that who you engage with on the social media platform, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Twitter. You get to know them. A supplier that we met on Twitter and is giving us support in a number of areas with our firm actually managed to recruit an office manager for us, which is superb, saving us a recruitment fee. So I mean, the benefits are huge, absolutely huge.
Now, sceptics might say that there's nothing that can beat face-to-face contact with clients. What's your answer to that?
I would agree with that. I think that there is nothing that beats face-to-face contact with clients, although on Twitter you could say I have face-to-face contact with 12,000 potential clients. But if you're using Twitter and LinkedIn, the general conversation on the public timeline soon develops into a conversation through direct messaging and email, and very often will lead to a meeting. So I will set up meetings with people I've met on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I will get requests from people who suggest they'd like to come and meet us. So I think the social media networks are a prelude to face-to-face contact and assist it. And using these networks, you can be marketing all the time. You can use those small segments of time in your day, and lawyers are time poor, to constructive use.
Well, indeed, and but because it's so versatile, how do you actually measure whether you're getting a return on the investment that you're putting into it?
That's very difficult. I think that because the benefits are not just about clients, you cannot measure the return on investment simply in terms of net profit costs on bills. There are many other benefits, and I've tried to highlight some of them. and I could give any number of examples of how we have benefited from using social media. I mean, to give you a very small example, we promote our blog using Twitter. So we did a blog post on somebody was sacked for their green environmental beliefs, and we did a blog post on that. It was picked up by Canadian network radio and led to one of my employment partners doing a live radio interview with Canadian National Network, which is just fantastic. And that happens all the time. Those coincidences happen all the time using these social media platforms.
Now, in terms of the shape of your social media, is that in any sense dictated by your client base?
To some extent it is, yes, because you can actually target now certain clients or certain potential clients using, Twitter clients as they're referred to, but applications that you use in connection with Twitter, like, for instance, Tweet Spinner or Tweet Adder, where you can actually go after the clients if you have a hunting mentality. You can, if your clients are on these social media networks, it's not a bad thing that you're also on there, I think, and you can see what they're discussing using the networks, and you can hone your own marketing to their interests. So to that extent it's useful, but I have to say I don't think it's that important. I think that what you're looking for is to engage with people who are perhaps not your clients yet.
Now, in terms of looking at strategy, what are some of the things that are going to shape your view?
That's quite a difficult one because the answer varies from firm to firm. In terms of strategy, the strategy we have adopted is that I've been on Twitter tweeting in the name of London law firm for over 2 years now, but 6 or 7 other of my colleagues who were somewhat sceptical 2 years ago are now avid tweeters and users of LinkedIn. And so we've developed this concept of what has become known as tweeting in convoy, where it's not just one person in the firm, it's a number of people all tweeting. So that's one strategy that works. And the more people that are using social media from within a firm, the greater the leverage, because they've all got different followers on whatever social media platform they're on. Of course, there's always an overlap as well, but I guess that between the 6 of us, we've probably got the best part of 25,000 followers on Twitter alone.
And what you seem to be saying is that you've actually got to look at it as a tool in the toolbox and as part of something wider, something part of maybe your marketing strategy.
Yes, it's not in itself a marketing strategy. I'd like to emphasize that, but it does support the general firm's marketing strategy. And it gets your blog posts and your EY newsletters out to a much wider audience very quickly, because you can tweet links, you can update your LinkedIn account with links to web posts, to all kinds of things, and you can use the social media platform to promote your general marketing. If the firm is doing a seminar, you can send out an invitation on LinkedIn as a seminar request, and people will come to the seminar through the LinkedIn seminar promotion. So there are many ways in which the social media platforms support traditional marketing. It's not a substitute for it, but it's a hugely effective way of giving it some oomph.
Now, I was going to ask you about content, because presumably content is king. If the content's not right, no one's going to want to follow you, are they?
Well, I think that's right when it comes to blog posts and serious content. I have to say that if you're engaging with people on Twitter, a lot of your content is completely frivolous and frothy and humorous, and unless you're engaging with people on that level, you're not going to have an effective social media campaign. If you're a law firm that just puts up a corporate account and starts tweeting serious law issues all of the time, that's the best way to turn off any kind of client interaction at all. You've got to be engaging with people on a personal level, and that means the content could be as diffuse as arguing about the best ingredients for a Manhattan cocktail, for instance.
So how do you get this balance? It sounds like you might need quite a diverse number of people with input into it.
I think it's an individualistic thing. I think various people use Twitter and LinkedIn in the way they like to use it, and I think that's what's good about it. And I think that within a law firm, you've got to give people the means and the opportunity to express their individualism within that firm using social media opportunities.
So, Chris, do you think the time's going to come when clients won't find law firms by looking at traditional websites? They'll be looking at social networking sites?
Yes, I do. And in fact, I would say that time has already come. Clients are finding their way to our door through social media. And I think that firms need to be aware of that. I think there's a continual 24/7 conversation going on social media networks. And if you're not part of that conversation, you're missing a huge opportunity.